Thank you. Thank you, President Zabudsky, members of the platform, honored guests, and especially to the graduating class of 2012. Thank you so much. It's a blessing to be here on this very special occasion with you, and I feel truly honored. Some of you know, I've met some of you in community work courses a couple years ago, and this year in child and youth work courses speaking to you. I think one of the students said, I overheard her say, "Boy, that guy can chat." And I'm not going to talk that long, I promise. I'm going to not keep you from the diplomas you so richly deserve and worked hard for. But I do want to say, I take this opportunity to say a couple things to you. First of all, if any of you in the future ever doubt that anything is possible, remember me. I never dreamed, back when I was in high school, back when I was in my post-secondary studies, that I would ever be the provincial advocate, let alone standing in front of a class such as yours, a graduating class, and speaking to you. It's amazing, really, and I'm proof that anything is possible. When I think about why I'm here, I think about all those young people that I worked with over the last 20, 30 years in the services that your president spoke about. And I was so fortunate to work with this group of young people, particularly young people in care, working, dealing with mental health issues. And I watched and I supported as they met those challenges, and many, many of them became what we call successful. They became parents, successful partners, successful business operators, successful college and university grads. They found their dreams and achieved them, and I was walking alongside them, maybe providing an opportunity for them to do what we all know that they can do to reach their potential. But they were actually walking in the full light of their potential, and the light of that bright light of their potential shone on me. And I think that's why I'm here. And I always want to give them honor, but it also shows to you, and everybody here is going to be in the helping profession one way or another, how enriching that it can be. So let me tell you about them. And when I do that, I think about this young woman who said to me, this is our story. And it can be, she was in child welfare care, but it could be some of the people, if you're in police foundations, that when you're a police officer you might meet, or if you're in a community work program, when you're working in some of our communities you might meet. This young woman was in care, children's aid, and she said, you know, this is our story. We're at home dealing with whatever really difficult circumstances we're dealing with, some we cannot imagine. We're little children, and we're coping as best we can. And then one day somebody comes to our school, a stranger, and we get pulled out of our class, and that person starts asking us questions about what was going on at home. And whether we're 8 or 9 or 10 or 12, the secret's out. And what we were coping with now is something completely new and different. And our world was turned upside down. We had no control over that, just like we had no control over what was going on at home. And then that worker, because this young woman came into care, so that worker takes me home and gets some of my articles, clothing, remembering that, you know, she might have asked me to take my clothes off so she could see if there were bruises on me or not, how intrusive that was when I was 8 or 9 or 10 or 12. You get the picture. I go home, and when I go home and the worker's there and I'm getting what they call transitional items, like a teddy bear or something to take with me, whoever my caregiver was is freaking out of my control. And I get put into a home temporarily. I don't know the people there, I don't know the other kids there, don't know the rules, and that's out of my control. And then I meet a new worker, because the worker that came to protect me is not the worker that's going to help me in the system as I get through the system. Maybe I go to court, child welfare court, maybe I don't, but court is, I think, as a child, for bad people, all of this stuff is outside my control, the change of workers, going to court. And then, of course, even when the system works well, I'm probably going from a number of homes to a number of homes to a number of homes, all feeling like it's outside of my control. And then at 18, they tell me I have to live on my own, ready or not, outside of my control. And at 21, they say, "It's been nice knowing you. Goodbye, and don't call back." All outside of my control. And the young woman who's telling me that says, "So Irwin, what makes you think that I think I have any control over my life, so much so that I can say I'm going to go to university or college and I'm going to be this or that?" And I thought, I'm not sure. I don't know what makes you might think that. But I've seen it. I've seen them do it. And I want to say this to the graduating class. I know you're here. I know somebody in this room in one shape or form, and many probably, have made that journey and overcome and believed in themselves, which is probably the hardest thing, and found what they needed, and I think that's unbelievable. I congratulate you. And what I want those of us who haven't made that journey to take away, because I ask them often, what makes a difference? They give me a lot of things, but inevitably one of the things they say is that there was one person. And I thought, and I have thought over the years to myself, because you can learn from the young people and the not so young people you'll work with, I thought to myself, that's true for me too. And it's true for you. And the President mentioned your supporters who are here, gathered here, and they've obviously made a difference to you. But it's not always a family. Some of us don't have families. And sometimes it's the small things. For me, it was, I remember Mr. Klecki, my grade 7 teacher, who I used to write stories, and he took one of my stories. They were terrible. I'm just telling you that truth. And he took it in front of the class, and he said, "This Irwin can write. He's really great. Let me read your story to the class. It's fantastic." And from that day on, I believed I could write, and I remember him to this day. And of course, the first thing I did in university was become a teacher. And the really cool thing about that, because he influenced me and he made a difference, he has no idea. I'm at Sheridan College speaking about him today. If he doesn't, I'm quite convinced he doesn't know who I am. And he doesn't know the difference he made. And young people, like the young person I told you about, says it's one person who makes a difference. And when you're working with whoever you're working, what I want you to remember is that you can be that one person. In fact, you need to be that one person that makes a difference. And sometimes, when you have to deal in the system, some of you have had placements. If you're in child and youth work, you know what you are up against in the systems, or all the rigmarole, I call it, the stuff you're going to have to deal with. Certainly the police officers, you have a future here, the investigators, the community workers are going to know it. When you run into that, you remember that you can be that one person, and you can remember it by remembering who made the difference for you. Because if you're here, somebody did make a difference, and you can remember you can do that too. And for me, it's always given me hope to move on forward. I remember one of the young people saying, every child deserves an adult whose eyes light up when they walk into the room. And that quote has stayed with me. And I think you can be that person. You can be that adult. And it's not just children, obviously, who need that. Every person needs that, and you can be that. And the last thing I want to say is to remember, and this is maybe controversial, maybe you're taught not to do this, but I want you to love the people you're working with. Love the children you're working with. Remember, you can love the quote-unquote clients you're working with. It's okay. And I know about countertransference, all that stuff. It says you're not allowed to do that. But I remember being in Japan in a children's home and working with, it's basically an orphanage there's about 60, 70 children in the home, and the staff that were running there, and they were asking us about Canada. I remember saying something just flippantly that, no, we couldn't say that. We're not supposed to say we love the children we work with. They thought that was very strange. They could not fathom why we would say that. In my mind, it's a social construct. There's other places where it's acceptable. And when you remember that Jean Vanier said, we think our greatest need is to be loved, but actually our greatest need is to belong. And when I told my wife that, she said, maybe it's the same thing, belonging and loving. Then you can remember it's okay to love. It's an act of hope. It will be truly enriching to you. And it's something that I believe all of us can find a way to do. And I want to leave you with a quote of Emerson, because it is taking a risk to love the people you're with. You have to be open to that kind of relationship. And he said, most of the shadows of this life are caused by us standing in our own sunshine. And I think we can get out of our own way and bask in our light of our full potential, the way the young people I talked to you about. And I wish that for you. Thank you for having me here, and congratulations.